From the far corners of the fandom universe, representing film, comics, and anime, sci-fi, fantasy, and cosplay, they come together for one cause: to geek out. They are the Council of the Blurs. Blurred powers unite. Engage.
You're good to go. All right, everybody set, everybody straight.
Yep.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Council of the Blurs. I am, of course, your host, Kendrick Gray, the Dreadlock Blurred, and the whole council is here today. So, yay for us!
Yeah.
Woo! All right. Before we begin, of course, time for the shameless plugs. Be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. If you're watching us on YouTube, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Hit that bell right next to the subscribe button so you know every time we go live or if we drop just an individual video.
Yeah.
If you're watching us on Facebook, please go to our Facebook fan page and give us a like and a follow, please, because it definitely helps the numbers. You can also find us on Instagram, Discord, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it right now. So until we get on to other different platforms and stuff, this is where you can find us. And as always, if you hear any discrepancies in the way we sound or anything, please let us know so we can make those technical adjustments and such. All that being said, we're just gonna get right into it. How's everybody feeling today? Everybody good?
Well, man, I'm great. I'm great. I have much more room down here. Y'all can take it any way you want. I just move some things around. I got a desk and everything. It's much easier to move around in the studio now. So I'm comfortable. Finally, I don't have to knock anything over.
Cam, I know you're still kind of feeling a little bit
Another
out
weather.
of it and stuff, so both of our ladies aren't feeling too well today, so please send y'all your good vibes to them both, so but they still managed to tough it out and be on the show tonight, so
I just want to give Kim a blanket or something.
Don't put anything on my skin right now, it burns.
Oh, okay. Wow. Ow, okay.
Okie dokie. Just to jump in the chat, Josh says she's first. Well, thank you for being first. And ironically, in 2020, that's still a thing. I don't know why, but it still is. I still get it from time to time, but it is what it is. And Smoke and Mirrors is here. What is good?
Hey, right. Smoke and Mirrors.
So tonight's conversation should be an interesting one. It kind of popped up in my head earlier today, but ironically, it kind of coincides with what we talked about on our last show. If you guys tuned in last time, we talked about, people not coming to grips with reality and basically geek and nerd culture trying to bogart geek and nerd culture for themselves instead of letting it be open to everybody.
Exactly.
Our conversation today, which is going to be talking about diversity and inclusion into not just everything else, but mainly the geek and nerd community and stuff. Where I got the idea for the topic actually came from a post I put out the other day. I posted on Instagram saying how I wouldn't mind seeing a sequel to the Book of Eli called The Book of Solara. If you guys remember that movie, Solara was the young girl played by Mila Kunis, who accompanied Eli on his journey to the West to deliver the last version of the King James Bible. Now, you guys remember, he passed away from his wounds, but Solara decided to take it upon herself. She took Eli's gear and decided to head back home to rescue her mother. Now, as we all know, everything's in disarray over where Carnegie is at, but she has to go back. Now, I had said that I wouldn't mind it being like, it didn't even be a movie. It could have been like a small limited series or something just to follow up her story. Right. Now some people commented on it. Some people were like, while it's a cool idea, they wouldn't necessarily think it would be a good one, considering that she's not very skilled as much as Eli was. That's understandable. I can roll with that. Another friend commented up, however, they could see it being somewhere maybe she learns along the way going back home. Again, something I can see to that. Someone that me and Tani and Harold are mutual friends with made the
Yes.
comment about how he didn't like the idea of it being like a woman empowerment movie, and that he was totally against it. And it was Tani who pointed out to me, because when I woke up this morning, I didn't check any of my notifications. So when she pointed that out to me, the only thing I could do was just laugh.
Yeah.
Laugh at the fact that that's the first thing that popped into his mind, that it would be like a woman empowerment type movie.
Right.
And this got me thinking about a couple other different things too that I've been seeing over the past couple of weeks or so. You know, we've been watching Lovecraft Country. We've been
Yeah.
watching Power. We've been watching like a whole bunch of different series, and I have a very few select number of friends that definitely tend to lose their mind,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to like the homosexual stuff that's depicted in these shows.
Yeah.
And my thing is like, look, it exists. It's out there. It's existed for a long time. So
Right.
if your only beef with a series or a movie or a video game is a sexual orientation, then you got a lot of problems
Yeah.
right now. If you can't see a female-led movie and see it as like just a movie or a series, then you probably got some things that you need to work on there.
Yeah.
So I wanted to talk about inclusion and diversity, and how you mentioned it's like the pros and cons of it all, and how it extends from not just movies but to TV shows, video games, comic books, things
Yeah.
like that. Because I want it to be understood to everybody watching. Inclusion and diversity in media is a thing that's only really begun within like the past 10, 15 years. Really?
Yeah. Pretty much.
Like it's like it wasn't, if it wasn't for the 2000s, we wouldn't be getting these things.
Right.
Like don't get me wrong, I still have my preferences, but like black people exist, Asian people exist,
Mm-hmm.
homosexual people exist,
Mm-hmm.
women exist,
Mm-hmm.
people of different backgrounds, even like different intelligence, like people with like special needs, those people exist.
Right.
People have to know that they exist. We can't sweep them under the rug. That's
Exactly.
not how progression works.
Right.
So we have to put them in the forefront to show them that they do exist. It is what it is. Like, people look at like a lot of these, especially a lot of these young adult movies, where like there's a lot more, gay lesbian characters, like a lot of like non-binary characters that are in these movies. I'm like, well, they exist. They're real. Like,
Yep.
representation is everything. Say what you want. Say what you want about how the movie was made, but Black Panther is still one of the best black superhero movies out there.
Absolutely.
I mean, and granted, we have Spawn and we have Steel, which we don't like to talk about, but
We
they
don't talk about Steel.
they exist. They are real. Black Panther just had the decency to actually put some respect on his name and
There you
do it
go.
the right way. And Blade 2, don't get me wrong, Blade 2. So
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
so, but we have to get out of this basically caveman Neanderthal mindset
Right.
that these are supposed to be one way. Movies are supposed to be one way. TV shows are supposed to be one way. Comic books are supposed to be one way. I'm like, no, that's totally not how that's working. That's not how progression is made. If that's the way you see things, then you're going to be stuck in your own little bubble,
Yeah.
not getting any further in what you're doing.
Right.
So I mean, what are you guys' initial thoughts?
Well,
essentially.
the thought necessarily is not necessarily a thought. Sometimes you have to go back to the root of all of this, especially when it comes to inclusion as far as movies are concerned and films.
Mm-hmm.
The issue is that it deep roots way back, to even the times of discrimination, when Jim Crow and things of that nature, how they were displayed from there and going from there. A lot of people weren't included.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is just something that has been built over time along with everything else. You know, like the top 10%. You're looking at the same thing in the industry as well. This is you're looking at your main industries. Your top earners are always going to be from a certain group of people.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So when we look at anything as far as inclusion is concerned, anything like that, we have to understand that this is, at least for America, this is Hollywood.
Right.
And it's going to take a lot more than just for us to say, okay, we need to start being included to be included.
Right.
You're going to need more. You're going to need a lot more Tyler Perrys. I hate to say it that way, but you're going to need Tyler Perrys. You're going to need a lot more, Peels. You're going to need a lot more people that are inclusive of their own people.
Yeah,
exactly.
Going out there and making their own industries.
Right.
That's what we're missing right now. We don't have that representation. As long as we don't have that representation, that type of representation in film and in the industry, we're never going to get that. And that goes for Hispanic as well as every other race. If you're, South Asian, you'll notice the inclusion is not the same.
Right.
More recently, I believe the most controversial thing that came up was the Mulan movie so far, and the controversy that surrounded that. As far as they originally weren't going to put Asian people in it.
Seriously?
Yeah. And it was a big thing that they wanted to make sure that they were going to put Asian people in the movie because Mulan is Asian. We have to start doing that. We have to start now putting representation in our own movies, especially if they come from our own cultures.
Right.
So I definitely think if you're looking at inclusion and you're looking as far as that, and you're looking for, the reason why people get stuck in a way is because it's been that way for so long.
Right.
It's been that way for generations. And we have not gotten used to it, but grown accustomed to it is a better way to put it.
Yeah.
So we have learned to kind of deal and put our own person into that perspective, put our own selves into that position. Like
there you go. There you go.
How many women, I hate to say this way, but how many girls really wanted to be pretty women when they grew up? Who wanted that pretty woman effect? It's probably a lot of them that were in bad situations that wanted to be pretty women, but they weren't Julia Roberts.
Right.
They were Beyonce. They weren't Julia Roberts. They kind of had to force their ideals into that particular situation. I think as time goes on, we like I said, we just need more people like Tyler Perry.
I mean, you just go with Jordan Peele because we all like him.
Yeah, I know.
We all like him.
You saw the eye roll on that one.
We all like Jordan Peele.
No, and I'm not gonna fault Tyler. Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna say I don't love Tyler Perry. I do love what he's doing for the community. He has done very well for the Black community.
Yes,
by far. He has been he's provided jobs for so many Black actors and actresses.
Yeah.
So I can never take that away from him.
Right.
As much as I don't like a lot of his movies, I will never be able to take that away from him. And he has built his empire. He's a Black man with his own studio.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and that is like the ultimate right there to aspire to at this point. That is the ultimate to aspire to. So
who would have ever thought?
Yeah.
To go from a screenplay, to go from doing stage shows and screenplays, from stage to stage to stage all around the U.S.
Yeah.
To having your own studio.
Yeah.
Granted, you make crappy movies out of the studio, but you have your own studio.
Yeah.
But good movies are made in the studio.
Yeah, good movies can be made in the studio. And the thing is that
it was filmed at Tyler Perry Studios.
Yeah, it's like it's amazing what he has done, but we need more of that. We need more Tyler Perrys.
Yeah.
We need more Peels. We need more people on our side. And that's not saying that there aren't, people that are not on the side of people of color out there that are very inclusive of people of color. Not saying that at all. I think, and I'm going to throw this name out there because it's the first thing that comes to mind. I think Tarantino does a good job of integrating a lot of people of many different races in his movies. Do I see him as a representative of us? No.
Right.
But I definitely see that he's more willing to reach out there and kind of go out on a limb.
Right.
You know, with a lot more characters and a lot more people. We need a lot more of our people to kind of get together and do this. If we want to be included more in that, you know, you want to be part of the top earners in the top 10%. But I don't think as far as inclusion, especially like what we're going to see now, like, you know, with the new movies that are coming out and things that are going to be producing, where we have questionable characters, you know, where we're questioning their races and we're questioning, I'm not sure we're going to get a lot of that anymore.
It's funny because I saw a post a few days ago. I forgot what film it was talking about, but it was like a Twitter post of like, and this guy was talking about how there are characters in certain movies that are being played by lighter skin like actresses as opposed to being played by darker skin actors based on who the character is. I wish I had saved it because it was very interesting.
For example, Nina Simone.
Right, yeah. She was one of them. She was one of them because it was who was it? It was
what's her name from Guardians?
Right. Yeah, it was
Zoe Saldana.
Yeah, Zoe. She played Nina Simone. Like, there are definitely pros and cons to inclusion and diversity in media. I want to talk about some of the pros first. At the very least, I want to talk about something like that. I mean, without it, again, something like Black Panther probably wouldn't have gotten made. And we got to remember, Wesley Snipes was working on this like years ago, like before Blade became a thing. He was working on getting Black Panther off the ground. You know, I mean, like it goes to what you were saying, Kim. Like at some point, we're gonna have to do it for ourselves.
Exactly.
But I will give credit to people who are trying to make strides and making it happen now.
Yeah.
You know, especially people who are not of our ethnicity, trying to do that.
Right.
Not even going. You know, aside from like race, you know, people that are like, you know, really starting to embrace more of the you know, homosexual community, you know, the LGBTQ community. Like, granted, some people do it better than others.
Right.
It still is.
Well, I remember a while ago there was a big thing, and now it's a different. It's the same argument, just with a different group of people. It was the argument: why can't gay people play gay people on the screen? That was the question. Why is it a straight man is always playing a gay guy on the screen? Why can't you legitimately get a gay man? I forgot who made that argument. I totally forgot it. And now the issue is, why can't you get a person with an actual disability to play a person with disability on stage?
Well, it's the same argument that was just recently had about why can't you get an actual trans person to play a trans person?
Right.
Like, that's unfortunately the cons that we have to
But don't we have that on Vogue? Not Vogue, on Pose? Pose.
We have it now, and I think I mean I didn't watch Orange is the New Black.
Yeah.
But I remember when
what's her name was trans,
when Laverne Cox said that she played twins, a twin boy and girl. And like, you know, he played, like, you know, she played herself. And then she also played the character's brother, which I thought was cool.
But, you know, and, you know, you have, like I said, Pose is a good show for that, because Pose is all about the LGBT community. So you're looking at that community in a whole, and they're running through that. So you have like Porter's on there. I can't think of his full name right now.
Billy Porter.
Billy Porter's on that show. And I think it's a very good show because it's going through the whole lifestyle of trans, whatever, you know, and I get it. And, you know, it's an inclusive show, but I also think there's a lot of people that you have to walk a thin line when it comes to a lot of things as well. You know, if you are going to have a gay plot point, you should have a gay character playing that character.
Yeah.
You should. Now, does it come down to acting sometimes? Yes. Sometimes a better actor might not be gay.
Right. Smoke Mirror said something interesting in the chat. He said, honestly, what's with these people worrying about the sexuality or gender of a character? Give me a good story. And rightfully so. I mean, I'm the same way too. I don't really care about
because people made such a big deal about if I can just use this as an example, never mind the quality of the show or the acting or anything like that. How people were like getting bent out of shape over Batwoman, and how it was being accused. I read somewhere that it was being accused of having a lesbian agenda, and they're just playing the lesbian thing up all hard and everything, instead of Batwoman. There's more to Batwoman than her just being a lesbian. She is a crime fighter who took up the mantle of the Bat, and she just happened to be lesbian. Okay, if you can just do the show, you know, and make her being lesbian part of the narrative and write a good story, then people are going to complain anyway.
Well, I was just getting ready to say, like,
Black Lightning did a good job of having a lesbian character and
excellent
a big thing about it.
Excellent.
Just there.
I think what happened with Batwoman, I think the fact that, I mean, honestly speaking, I mean, I ain't gonna lie to you folks, like, I was in and out of Batwoman, like honestly, some of the story elements in that show just couldn't hold on for me. Like, to me, it just seemed like it seemed like it was all over the place.
It was.
I saw what people were saying about like how the lesbian thing was kind of like, I think the way it was put in people's faces, that's probably what it was.
They were just trying to put it in the face like, oh, I'm lesbian. Yeah, we're trying to make a statement. Like, I'm a lesbian superhero, like that.
Like the back and forth between her and her ex, I'm like, okay, we don't really need all this. Find somebody new, date somebody else or something like. I mean, if the narrative makes sense, then yes, that's fine. Because I'm pretty sure the comic books didn't do that.
No,
you know, I mean, but like it's I don't know. I mean, you also got to look at it also because some of the cons that come with this is like the people who are working on these movies and on these shows, and like people always talking about the agenda that these showrunners have. I'm like, beforehand I was like, I don't really see it, but now I'm like, okay, I can kind of understand what you're talking about.
Yeah,
because I didn't see it. I honestly didn't see that on Batwoman. Like we're also not going to pretend that people in the LGBT community don't have the issues that were portrayed in the show.
Absolutely. So, like the whole don't ask, don't tell thing. I like that because I don't think have we ever really seen that portrayed on screen before? To that extent?
Not really.
Yeah, but that was definitely a good point. To let people know that there is, or what. Well, the don't ask, don't tell thing doesn't apply these days, does it? I mean, it's been abolished.
Well, concerning who's in charge of the country right now.
Okay.
But even just going back into the chat, Josh said with the trans playing trans and gay people playing gay. It falls into how many of them are actors and actually try for the role. They have increased, but they weren't always putting themselves out there. I think that's one of them. I think that's one of the main reasons why I really want a Batwoman to work, because of the fact that Ruby Rose, I believe she's like bisexual, if I'm not mistaken. I'm like,
I think she's a lesbian.
She was one of my top picks to play Batwoman. So when that happened, I was like, soup. But I don't know. Like, and again, this goes back to what I was saying before. Like, half the time, a lot of people like to blame actors for how things are done. Majority of the time is the writing. And I'm gonna stick to that. Majority of the time, it's the writing, how things were written. Because like, let's look at Supergirl, for the matter. Like, her sister, Alex Danvers, is a lesbian.
Right.
I think they handled that pretty well in the show.
Right.
Some of the trials and tribulations that she had to go through. I think there was one episode where one of the girls that she was dating at the time, her father was completely against her lifestyle. And they sent them like majority of the episode around, and I'm like, you know what? This is well done. This is written very well. If you write it the right way, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah,
sometimes Supergirl lays it on a little thick. Sometimes.
Oh, they lay on a lot of things really.
Oh, they laid on a lot of subjects. I mean, even Green Arrow laid down a lot of subjects that were pretty thick.
Yeah.
But for instance, and I'm going to throw Doctor Who out here just to answer Smoke and Mirror's question before I cut out. Smoke and Mirrors, the issue I have when people make a big deal about genders right now, and I will throw Doctor Who out there. I feel personally when they're throwing out certain things to be inclusive, sometimes it's not the right timing for it, nor is it the right setting for it, nor is the right situation. Doctor Who is a good example. They introduced Billy with the last Doctor, with the 12th Doctor. The issue with Billy was that Billy was a lesbian. Billy was probably the worst character, and it was the worst development of finding out how she was a lesbian. It was a horrible setup. The entire thing was messed up. You never really heard about it again. You never really got anything into her personality as a companion. But it was forced on you, and that's the way it felt. It felt forced. And I think when people have a problem is when you're pushing it on them and you're saying, here, shove it down your throat and take it because we're being inclusive. And it's like, no, give it to me in doses. Let me feel this coming in. Let me understand this as it's happening. The same thing is that when we found that the Doctor can be anything. The Doctor could be a woman, a man, anything. It doesn't matter. The Doctor's gender doesn't matter. That's fine. We found that out, when Misty. When Missy came out, Missy was a man originally, and now Missy is Missy. Missy's no longer there, but Missy's not a master, but it's a whole mess. Anyway, Missy can be a male or a female. But the Doctor itself, when he became Jodie Whittaker, that's when the point I think a lot of people made a big deal out of it, because we weren't ready for you to force another thing down our throat. So that's what a lot of fans were. So I think when it comes down to it, I think a lot of the writers and a lot of people are so busy trying to be inclusive, and they're not listening to their fans going, we're not ready for this. You already gave us our first lesbian character. Let us build on that. Give us a minute and then give us this. But you're so busy forcing it down people's throats, and they're just not comfortable. And the same thing with Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters, people weren't ready for that.
Right.
It was a matter of they just weren't ready. It's lovely to see it, but that wasn't their movie.
What I'm against, and this kind of touches on what you're talking about, Kim. I'm against diversity or inclusion for diversity and inclusion's sake.
That's exactly what it is.
Like, don't change like the ethnicity of a character if it doesn't fit the narrative, or if you don't have a way to explain it.
Right.
Again, going back to going back to Daredevil with Ben Affleck.
Right.
I love Michael Clark Duncan. I love him. Now, but we all know the Kingpin is a big fat white guy. We know this. So, I'm not saying that what he did in the movie was bad. The movie overall was just kind of bad. If we're gonna be honest. The Daredevil show proved that. But you know, I mean, something like that I can let go because
Mm-hmm.
again, it's just a one-off. It's a whatever. Billy D. Williams played Harvey Dent in the first Batman movie.
Yeah, that threw me off. It
I
still
mean,
throws me off.
you know, but we love Billy D. We
I
love
was
him.
telling to care.
Yeah, a
You
lot of
know,
yeah, it is if it's small enough of a character that it's not noticeable, people usually don't notice it until they become a main character.
right?
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like it's hard when you're seeing your main characters being inclusive and everything else. And I get it. It's like when you find out like not to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't watched Lovecraft Country, but once we find out the gay aspects of the Lovecraft Country part that they're putting in there,
Mm-hmm.
which I mean I see that but it's for the sake of inclusion. It's not for the sake of the actual plot.
Mm-hmm.
See now, like if your argument is that it doesn't fit the narrative, I'll agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
There it is.
I'll definitely agree with you on that because that's the type of person I am. If it doesn't fit anywhere into the overall narrative, and I'm not saying that it completely has to, but it has to make sense to some degree. If you're just throwing it in there just for the sake of throwing it in there, you're gonna get the complaints that you're getting right now. Now, granted, the people complaining about it,
Complaints regardless.
yeah,
Right,
I mean,
yeah.
granted, a lot of the complaints that people have right now is just because of the fact that they just don't like gay people.
Mm-hmm.
That's really what it is. They're not gonna say that out loud, but that's really what it is. They just don't like gay people.
Yeah, but the like, and from my perspective, I'm just seeing it because it doesn't fit the plot point, and it's like
Right.
it's just there to be there.
Like,
I'm gonna give you a good example of good writing and plot points, and having characters with alternative lifestyles, and not having it being thrown up in your face, even though it maybe like for a moment it might be shocking, but
Mm-hmm.
it was well written. The Boys.
right.
I love the lesbian relationship between Maeve and I forget the woman's name, but
Elena.
Elena. It was that was an actual relationship. I looked at that and I was like, this is real. It's not slamming me over the head with, oh, we're lesbians. Look at us. We're kissing. We're making out and everything. No, it was I saw the anger. I saw the pain. I saw the hurt. I saw the love. I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
I actually saw it. That's what it was well written. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think anybody has really a problem with gay characters, except for those who are bigoted in that way. We just want to see it go
somewhere.
Like,
Go somewhere.
I mean, then again, you got to remember the Boys hit a lot of things right. Okay, I'm sorry, The Boys is a pretty well written show. Now, granted, I think I like season 1 more than season 2, but the show itself is done very well.
Yeah.
Like the way they just written things out.
Show.
Like even going back to Maeve and Elena, even how Homelander kind of the way they've written Homelander dealing with it. I'm like, this is pretty good. Now, Homelander, for those of you guys who don't know, Homelander is who Trump wishes he was. if we're going to be honest with you. Homelander is really who Trump wishes he was. But the way he dealt with it in the show, and the way they wrote it, it makes sense. And that's ultimately what it comes down to. Like, if what you're trying to include in the story doesn't make sense, then don't try to force it. Like, don't change a character's ethnicity for me.
Right.
If for some... This is one of the main reasons why I like the multiverse idea in comic books, because at least it gives narrative reasons for that. I can see why we have a Superman that's black, that's modeled after President Obama. I can see why they have a Superman that's black, who has like a full backstory. I understand that. Like how we have different versions of the Green Lanterns. Like we have different versions. Like, I mean, and granted, most people probably see that as a cop-out because it's a multiverse, so you can just explain whatever you want. But they at least took the time out to write a story for it.
Yeah,
and it's fine. I'm like, and if you're gonna do that, that's okay. I mean, that's okay too. I'm like, honestly, I just don't want to see it to the point where we're completely blocking out ethnicities from their own types of movies. Like, I don't want to see Julia Roberts as Harriet Tubman.
Yeah.
That's not gonna happen. You know,
Yeah.
that's not gonna be a movie I'm gonna watch, because that's no. But I don't want to see people blocked out of their own movies. Like, I don't want to. Like, my biggest thing, I do not ever want to see an Asian remake of any movie whatsoever ever again without Asian characters or at all, or set in Asian. I don't want to see another Ring 2.
Yeah.
Like, look, my thing is this. Like, I know everybody.
They should have never touched those
everybody
movies.
was kind of up in arms with Black Panther, but I'm like, it's Black Panther. It takes place in Africa.
Yeah.
And you know, and the thing is that you can't say it wasn't inclusive, because there were characters that were not of the same ethnicity. So it was just in reverse. So the thing was that no longer did you have the token Black person, the token Hispanic, you had the token white person. That's what it was. The white person became the token. Not saying that, you know, but that's an issue, but that's really what happens in a lot of movies, is that it's usually the reverse. Right. Now, let's take a movie like Get Out, where your majority of your people in that movie are all of one color. But it was done so well that you focused on your main characters. Right. So it can be done, and it can be done well. And it's not a problem if you have a bunch of people that are of one group or many groups. You're trying to be inclusive of one, you're trying to be inclusive. Don't just trickle in people and just say, okay, I'm just going to put somebody here because I have to put somebody here. If you don't have to put anybody here, don't. A good point is Aladdin. Right. Aladdin's a good one. They were all over the place.
Yeah. You know, it's like it's crazy, because, you know, I look at the situation like I'm even thinking about like Man of Steel. You know, and I've said this before, like, I did appreciate the fact that, like, the Kryptonians, they weren't just like a whole bunch of white people. Right. Now, granted, we don't know if that's, I mean, again, it's fake. It's not real. Yeah. So, for all we know, Kryptonians are just all white people. But with but what they did with Man of Steel and the inclusion of, like, certain characters, particularly Val Zod's Superman from the DC comic book universe, you know, like, it's a way of saying, like, you know, they wrote it where it's like, you know, there's it's not that different from Earth. There's different, like, shades of people or Kryptonians that exist. Again, it really comes down to how this thing is written. Like, if you don't, like, again, if you're not, like, jamming it down our throats, I mean, that's one thing. If you're just, like, sprinkling it in here and there, yeah, we'll let it go. We'll let it go. But,
and even if we don't let it go, we'll get over it. That's the biggest thing, is that we'll get over it.
You know, I mean, I'm thinking about Power Book 2. We've been watching Power Book 2, Ghost. There's a character in there named Dre, who's gay. Yeah. You know, we all kind of pretty much figured it out. You know, now were the sex scenes as intense as they were in Lovecraft Country? No, they weren't. But at least plays into the narrative, which is interesting because the previous series, Power itself, didn't have any homosexual representation at all.
Except for females.
Yeah, except for that, which is always accepted.
Because, apparently. Females a little bit more accepted than male. Yeah.
So,
and one of the villains, I forgot his name, he was gay, but he didn't have any love scenes.
Was that?
But you knew he was gay.
Lobo. That was Lobos, right?
Yes.
Yeah, right. Felipe Lobos, right. You know, so it's I don't know. It just kind of, I mean, it's a lot to kind of work through and digest. Like, even let's just get off the subject of ethnicity and sexual orientation. Let's look at the people who are in, like, people who are, like, disabled. Or, like,
that's the thing right now.
People who are on the spectrum. You know,
they're really pivoting right now because they're angry because there's a lot of representation that they don't have. They don't have representation. They're literally very few people that are playing on set right now that maybe walk in a wheelchair or anything like that,
Right.
that they can't relate to because those people walk on like two legs when they get off the set.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
There are three people who come to mind
Mm-hmm.
when I think of actors who actually did have the disability that they were portraying.
Mm-hmm.
The first one and the oldest one is back on Seventh Heaven. The woman who was deaf, she is actually deaf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Glee, the girl with Down syndrome, she actually does have Down syndrome.
Mm.
And most recently would be for Raising Dion, the little girl Esperanza. She actually does have that disability that is portrayed on the show.
Well,
What's his name? What's his name from Back to the Future? Doesn't he have Parkinson's? And didn't he play a part where he had Parkinson's?
Who, Michael J. Fox?
Yeah.
Probably. I mean, well, let's be real here. Esperanza is the star of that show. All right, like let's just get out of the way right now. In Raising Dion, she's the star of the show. Like Dion, we're gonna need a time jump for season 2. That's all I'm saying. We need a time jump. But thinking back to like previous movies, like Daniel Day-Lewis played someone who had a disability. I forgot what the name of that movie was called. The only other person who I could think of that kind of represented like the disability community was the guy who played Corky on what's that, Life Goes On, that used to come on ABC. I'm forgetting his name.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting his name.
Yes.
Like, because I haven't seen him in years.
Yeah.
Like, there was like one other movie. I mean, it was played for as a joke, but they included a lot of like special needs people in it. That was The Ringer with Johnny Knoxville.
Yeah.
And even though that was played for a joke.
But here's the thing: one disability that we see often that's portrayed even in TV is dwarfism. Is dwarfism.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the one thing that we do see portrayed often, which I find that, don't get me wrong, because you have what's that, Big Planet, Little People, whatever the show's name is. I want to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Then you also have there was somebody on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Peter Dinklage.
Yeah.
Then you had Mini-Me before he passed away. I don't remember people's names. I'm sorry.
I mean, the actors themselves, they're Vern Troyer, Gary Coleman, what's his name, Emmanuel Lewis, Peter Dinklage,
Yeah.
I feel like, think about who you just mentioned. You mentioned
exactly.
Gary Coleman, Emmanuel Lewis, and then there are other people.
Who played Willow? What's that guy's name?
I think what I like is
Warwick Davis.
Warwick Davis.
Those characters are just characters.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly the point. Yeah.
Their disability is kind of like a non-issue.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing,
Except for that episode of Martin where there was like a bar, the gay bar equivalent for little people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But like you look at it and you look at them and they no longer become the dwarfism that they are. They are literally celebrities now.
Right.
And people see completely past that at that point. So, and I think that's what the disability community wants, is that they want people to kind of see past them as well, but they want to be inclusive. So I'm not sure if that's the same thing that with the gay community, things of nature, people are kind of stepping forward to say, hey, I want to play this part, or they just don't have parts made for people with disabilities.
See, the thing with that, especially, I mean, dealing with sexual orientation as opposed to like a disability thing, that's always going to be a hard thing to try to decipher, because I mean, like you said, like
right.
We've had actors that have played gay, lesbian. We've had few actors that have played disabled or like on the spectrum and things like that. Daryl just brought up a good one. Leonardo DiCaprio played an autistic kid in What's Eating Gilbert Grape.
Yeah.
And then you also have Rain Man, and then you also have what's the other one where he's the perfect I can't think of the guy who can do math really well from Jersey. I can't think of his name right now. I'm gonna think of that later. But you had those.
But A Beautiful Mind.
A Beautiful Mind. There you go. A Beautiful Mind. All of them.
Sean Penn.
Yeah.
Sean Penn. I think it said, My Name is Sam.
I Am Sam.
Yeah.
I Am Sam. Yeah.
So you have people that can play disabilities very well and can mimic them very well. Then you have the show Ratchet as well, where you have people that are also playing people with disabilities inside the actual facilities.
That I mean, when it comes to the disability part, I mean, I'm just gonna say what it is. Like your sexual orientation, that's almost easy to portray. I mean, I do feel like a lot more people in that community should definitely go out for those roles for better representation.
But you shouldn't get upset if a straight person gets it because they're a better actor or a more well-known actor.
You know,
I'm like, and I hate to say it because that's the way the industry works.
now granted, there's a lot of actors and actresses who've been coming out lately, but if you look at them, a lot of the
They've
roles
always played gay roles.
or actually a lot of them. There's actually a lot of them that have played straight.
Has Neil Patrick Harris ever played a gay character?
No.
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 I mean, shoot, even in like the last Howard and Kumar movie, it was brought up. But again, he played that off as like a joke in the movie. So he's never like played like a full on, gay character.
But then you look at like somebody like Queen Latifah. She's been back and forth. So she can play both. So I think a lot of people can portray, especially if you're very in touch with your sexuality, or very in tune with your sexuality, it shouldn't be hard for you to portray another, sexual orientation.
Now, the one actor that I know who's actually played a fair amount of, gay characters is Matt Balmer.
Yeah.
Matt Balmer, he's definitely one of them. But I mean, I guess they're slowly working their way into the business, which is always good because we need more representation like that.
Right.
Again, the disability one, that's going to be a little bit tough because
my thing is that how many movies do you see where, and I'm just not talking about, not even talking about like people on the autistic scale, because we get a lot of those movies where you have people that, are on the autistic scale or some for that scale. Like just talking about if you have like a legitimate, like not legitimate, but a disability, if you're in a wheelchair, if you are missing legs or arms or.
Now, I will say this: I think they're slowly bringing that out because I know this one guy. He was a soldier, like a real soldier, and he lost a leg, but he's been doing movies. I forget his name because I think the first thing I seen him in was Battleship.
Battleship, I remember.
So I don't know why I watched Battleship, but I did. But he was in that, and I think he's done a couple other things too.
So the little girl who plays Esperanza, she has osteogenesis imperfecta.
Right.
Or layman's terms, brittle bone disease.
Yeah. And the thing is that like we I think in what they're looking for, and that's going to be a hard thing for us to do, is that they're looking for inclusion in a lot of these, especially TV series, because I can see, I'm not seeing movies as far as it's concerned. Movies
is a tough sell.
Yeah.
It's a tough sell.
But as far as in television, to have characters that are more realistic, which is understandable because TV has always been that place where people kind of get away. How many times you watch a soap opera and it's been over dramatic and over dramatized and silly?
Yeah.
You kind of get lost in TV and forget that in reality that there are people that legitimately have issues and have disabilities and have things. I got into a back and forth with somebody because they didn't believe that having a stutter as an adult can be considered, some form of a disability.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's not as disabling as some of the other disabilities, but it's very distracting and annoying.
Yeah. Same thing with Asperger's syndrome, even though there's varying degrees of that, or even Tourette's.
Even
like
Tourette's.
That. People forget that. I mean, people laugh at those things, but people forget those are actual disabilities to people. A disability is labeled as something that, like, hinders you from basically existing in the outside world around like society and stuff. Like, if you can't conform to like the social norms, so to speak, that kind of where that falls, So
yeah, because you're now going. That's like, so having somebody who legitimately Like, and I guess this is why I watch, movies like Tu Wong Fu so much. They had a character in there who had a tick. He had a stutter and he had a tick, and to get him out of that, he had to snap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because what happens is that you get kind of lost in that, but that was a realistic character, because some people legitimately get lost in a lot of their different disabilities, and they get lost in that, and they want to relate to somebody else who's doing the exact same thing. So they see that, they're like, oh my God, I do that too, or this happened to me too.
Right.
So you really want to be able to have some type of representation. So I can see people wanting that for TV, especially people with disabilities wanting that for TV, high school TV shows especially. I'm like, I would think Disney would have got on top of that a long time ago,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I'm looking at actors right now that have some sort of disability, and there's actually quite a few of them. Looking at them now, you got RJ.
But are they playing? Here's the thing: are they playing people with disabilities with the same disability?
I mean,
that's what they're asking.
I guess it all depends on the character. Like Chris Burke is the guy who played Corky. It was him.
Mm-hmm.
So I just saw him. So even look at someone like Marley Maitland. She's deaf, but how many TV shows and movies has she been in?
Mm-hmm.
So and looking at some of these characters, like let me go to someone like Shannon DeVito. What does she have? I mean, she has her own website show. She popping. So, but it's I mean, obviously they exist, but again, it's like you said, it's like what degree to where their disability is, how they can operate.
But not even how they can. I'm not worried about how they can operate. I don't care about the question was more so what roles are we creating for people with disabilities to be put into? So what roles are we creating in shows that we can actually put somebody in that they can relate to, and they can be, like you can think, for instance, remember was the Full House, Kimmy Gibbler. I swore, like looking back on it now, that girl had ADHD. I swear she had ADHD. But
I mean, they probably never said it in the show, but she probably did.
She probably did.
The character or the actor?
No, the character.
Oh, okay.
The character. But you want somebody that you can relate to like that, so you can see like, oh my gosh, she's hyperactive like me. She's doing this like me. Or that person, like, oh, that person in a wheelchair, they're struggling like this. What do they do to handle the struggles? I think that's what people want to see.
Yeah.
And I think now that schools especially are more integrated in that particular sense, we're seeing more kids on the spectrum. We're seeing more kids with ADHD. We're seeing more people diagnosed with things that we've never heard of before. We're seeing diseases coming out of nowhere that we've never seen before. I think a lot of people want to be included in this, and they're just seeing these regular people kind of going on with their regular lives. And I think it might be a little bit depressing to most people with disabilities.
Yeah.
So I think if we include more disability roles, I think it would be a little bit more conclusive, and then you can work on getting people with disabilities that match up with those roles to play those roles.
Right.
But it starts from pretty much getting them roles in there first and pushing them in there and just saying, you know what, this person has this person has this. We're going to figure this out, and doing your research.
And you'll be opening up a door for a lot of people who have had dreams of being actors that probably otherwise back then would they would just be sitting there like wishing. But now with this new age of diversity and wanting to see all kinds of people all across the spectrum to be represented in film and television, this is a good time for them.
I'd like to see it as normalized, like we were just mentioning. With little people, they're in the show, but they're not really addressed as having a disability.
Exactly.
Right. The show or the movie, maybe in one show or two, they do, but for the most part, they're not. They're just their characters.
Yeah, the characters.
I get a lot of ads for different like streaming services and crap like that. So there's some streaming service called Shudder by AMC.
Yeah, I have it.
It's horror.
I just saw a ad for one of those typical thriller, somebody's so there's an intruder in your home type movies, but the couple just happen to be gay.
Right. Wow. Wow.
And like, so that's their selling point, is that they happen to be a gay couple.
And I'm like, all right, cool. I'm like, it's probably going to be the same. It's probably going to be the same plot line as like The Intruder, or or Obsessed, or something to that effect. And I'm like, I mean, we've seen that storyline many different times, but at the same, but for this time it's a gay couple. For some reason, I do like that, because those type of thrillers are considered quote unquote normal.
But the thing is, at the same time, I can see why you like it, but I can see why it's not good, because it's like, oh yeah, they just happen to be gay. Like so, okay, like a couple doesn't matter. A couple is at home, whatever.
Yeah.
And something happens. Why does gay have to be the selling point of it?
I think it's
I don't think they're doing it as a selling point. I think they're just a couple.
Yeah, but the thing is it because they're being hunted because they're like, I think there was a movie that's coming out actually where the couple is being hunted because they're a gay couple and they're in like a conservative area or something. I don't know if that's the plot. I saw something about it, but basically they're being hunted and they're the sacrifice, but they just happen to be a gay couple in the area. It's not necessarily that they are gay.
I think when it comes to like, sexual preferences and sexuality and certain things, I think that's one of those cases where like, I mean, granted, they've only really been like portrayed in movies within like the past like 10 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just one of those things where it's like, it's the same reason why we just watch movies where like heterosexual couples.
Mm-hmm.
It just is what it is. So like, like when you see a gay couple and it is like, whatever.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So
want to get to a point where it's just normalized, and I don't know.
Right.
I kind of grew up that way. Like, no one told me my brother was gay. I just at some point I just knew what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like, I think another example is when, Kendrick, remember you and I watched Weird City?
Yeah.
And Laverne Cox and, why can't I remember this other chick's name right now? The hell is her name? What the hell is Darlene's name?
I can't.
I don't know.
Sarah Gilbert.
There we go.
Yeah.
So Laverne Cox and Sarah Gilbert are,
Yes.
are a couple. So obviously she's a cisgender woman, and then she's in the relationship with a transgender woman, and again, they were just a couple looking for a house that happened to be taken over by evil AI. But I'm just saying.
Exactly. And that's the thing, is that, and that's and the thing is, for me, like when I hear plots like that, and I'm like, oh yeah, they have to mention their sexuality. I'm like, you can just say, you can put two and two together. You can male.
I don't think they mentioned their sexuality.
But
I'm saying the one that she mentioned for Shudder. Like when they mention it, I think at that point, like you can say a couple has blah blah blah, or even if you took the guys' names together, it doesn't matter. A couple that has been living and so and so. We don't have to. You can put two and two together. We don't have to summarize.
I mean, I think it's one of those things where society still has to.
We're working towards that.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
But I think that's gonna help them work towards that, because the problem is that if we keep putting that in, you have to kind of put that assumption in and kind of go, okay, you have to let me know that this is a gay movie. Like, no, you don't have to let me know this is a gay movie. No, I don't. Like, it's like you kind of keep spoon feeding them the same way, and they're gonna expect it the same way. If you kind of started out that way, it forces them. Not say it forces the perspective.
They do it with regular movies. They still kind of spoon feed people this information and stuff. So
and that's what I'm saying, that we have to stop spoon feeding people this, because like, come on now, just eat a little bit. No, just shove it in, and they're just gonna have to deal with it, and then they'll be sore in the morning, but who cares? I'm like, at the end of the day, is that we have to kind of like, I get it, like some of this stuff, like when it comes to like the movies and everything else, we kind of have to stop babying them and saying like, okay, we can you know how to do math. 1 and 1 is 2.
Right.
Well, no, we don't, and that's the issue. We don't, because everybody who's making these complaints obviously can't put 2 + 2 is 4. That's the whole argument.
It's 22. It's 20. Is 1 + 1 is 21? 1T1.
4 plus 4 is chicken. That's what's happening here. Okay.
And then they're gonna protest and say I have a right to be wrong or something like that. You know?
Exactly. Remember what Tani said in the beginning. People are offended by facts now. So
yeah, but I think it's gonna help with the inclusion. I think at this point, I mean, not now at this point, because right now we're not in a situation where we should be in. Turmoil wise, we're not in the place where we should be.
Oh, no, absolutely not. No.
But it's, as far as that, I mean, there's a lot of movies out there. There's a lot of stuff out there. I wish there was more inclusive, and but like I said, race issue, even sometimes age. Aging a character down, aging a character up sometimes can be thoroughly annoying.
Joss made a pretty interesting point. She said the thing that annoys her the most is the inclusion is that gay equals extra flamboyant for a lot of Hollywood standards.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
the one thing that's the one
yes.
thing we need to get away from. We do need to get away from that.
Yes, because there are a lot of gay people that you would not know they were gay until they told you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Or until they brought their boyfriend over for dinner. You're like, oh, okay. But at that point, we have to get out of that trope. We have to get it out. The same thing with lesbians. Like the whole idea that there has to be two cute lesbians together.
Yeah.
There's different types of lesbians. There's all sorts of lesbians out there.
Yep.
There's queer. There's trans. Not every trans person looks like a man.
Right.
Let's throw that out there too. There's some trans women that look.
Yeah.
Like they were born that way.
And I'm jealous, honestly, because I can't pay for that either.
Daryl, you said they're adding a transgender character to the Black Adam movie. It is a character, right? And it's not just an actor. It is a character, and is the character going to be written into the story? Because for as far as I know, we don't know nothing about the Black Adam movie. As of right now, it's off the slate again. So I don't know what to tell you.
That is funny, Joss. Yeah, they were like, yeah, okay. Like looking 9-9, the captain is gay. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
But that's where we're supposed to be at right now.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
And we also have to get away from, stereotypical roles as well.
That's the thing also, which is why, when I see especially certain African American characters in certain sci-fi, stories and stuff. I really gravitate to those a lot, is because, it's like we gotta get out of these quote unquote stereotypes that were portrayed in these movies and TV shows. Yeah. So it's like, I look at
It's like you look at that one person who their whole resume has been Thug 1, Thug 2, Thug 3, Thug, and it's like, come on now.
Right.
Give the man a chance.
I'm all for breaking type. I'm really all for breaking type.
Yeah. Oh yes.
So when I look at I'm trying to think of a good example. That was one.
Your boy that you can't stand right now.
Who?
The one that what can I think of his name? That one that was in Everybody Hates Chris. What's his name? Terry Crews.
Terry Crews?
Oh, yeah, Terry Crews.
Terry Crews.
Terry Crews is an interesting situation because he can apparently he apparently doesn't have a problem making himself look like a goofball, which is cool. Mm-hmm. A person his size, who can play goofy like that, I'm all for it. I don't mind that. It's funny. It's funny that you mentioned it because I was thinking about him earlier today. I remember his first role on TV was on a show called Battle Dome. It was like a cross between it was like a cross between professional wrestling and American Gladiators.
Yeah, it was one of those crash TV shows.
Like them obstacle contests and stuff. He played a character called T Money. Didn't really talk. He just walked around with a suitcase full of money, and that was it. And then I think I seen him in. Then he's played a couple of thug roles in Friday and stuff. But then when I saw him in what's that? White Chicks, and then of course like Everybody Hates Chris, and then even on like My Wife and Kids, where he played like a gym, like a fitness personal trainer, and how
he was in Norbit too. He played the brother in Norbit.
He was in Norbit. He The Longest Yard. I'm not gonna lie, Terry Crews can be really funny. He can be very funny. So like.
But he can also be versatile. So he's an example of a person who, if you saw him on the street, you probably cross the street.
Yeah.
You clutch your purse in the elevator. And I'm not gonna pretend like he's very intimidating looking. But you wouldn't know from his character that he can be goofy like that.
Right. It's the same thing with like the Wayans people, like the Wayans family, like Damon, Keenen Ivory, Marlon, Sean. Even though I think Sean is not that funny, I'm just gonna be honest. I never found Sean to be that funny. Marlon, Damon, and Keenen Ivory, those guys are the funny. And Kim.
The funny gene. Yeah. The funny gene kind of skipped Sean there.
He focuses too much on being
Sean.
Yeah, even Damon's son, Damon Wayans Jr. He's pretty funny. Like I think Sean focuses too much on being a pretty boy, but like just going back to all the roles that Damon Wayans played, like playing like a thug to playing Blank Man.
Yeah,
come on now, Blank Man, really? Like,
But the thing is then you're looking at, breaking out of that character is so hard to do for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And we, Hispanics especially get typecast as thugs, drug dealers.
All the time. And it's like you look at it and I'm like, this dude could probably do so much more if they gave him a different role. Just put him in a suit.
We recently watched Blumhouse's Fantasy Island. We just watched it like a few weeks ago. Not as bad as people were making it out to be. I thought it was pretty okay. But Michael Pena as Rourke, I thought he did a pretty decent job. Like I think the writing could have been better. I see what they were trying to do, but I was okay with it. I thought it was pretty decent. I think we just gotta find the right people. And this is where the other argument comes in, because like I see a lot of people who make these complaints,
right?
A lot among other things, but then it's like, okay, can you write better? Can you produce better? Like, can you do something where you can highlight a diverse cast, but show their range? Can you do that?
But again, it also comes to the thing is that you need to have your own. So sometimes we need to start.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, if you can do that, then it's time to start working on your own.
No, not even not working on your own. So it's like having your own. It's just like I said, having more people investing in your own people. So if that makes sense, so that way, instead of going into Hollywood's money or Hollywood's territory, we're going into, Black Hollywood or Hispanic Hollywood territory. Yeah. So now you're running into this, and now we're seeing talent come from this way and that way and that way. We're seeing range come out of all these people we never would have seen before, because now we're not being typecast into these roles that these people are expecting us to go to. Like if I go, I'm like, there's certain roles that we know for sure that we're definitely not going to get. We're probably going to go. But we know for sure we're definitely not going to get, because they already have a view and a mindset for that role, and we're not it. But you have to exceed, as an actor and actress, you have to exceed far more and way above those people in order to leave a lasting impression.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, is that they already have somebody. They already have somebody, so you have to kind of go above and beyond to show that you can take on that role. And that's the hardest part, is to do that in audition.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine how that would feel as a person, to have to go in there and have to, give it your all and hope that you get it.
Yeah.
But if you have people investing in you and they see, oh, you did this movie, and they go back and be like, yeah, I saw bits and pieces of that. She wasn't bad in that.
Right.
Like the writing wasn't good, but she kind of did something with that, or he kind of did something. Now you're invested in your own people.
Right.
So we need more of that around. We just don't need Tyler Perry. We just don't need Peele. We need, you know, I can't think of names right now, and I don't want to be racist by picking up names. So we need the Hispanic Hollywood somewhere, you know. We need a Hollywood over here in Texas. We need a Hollywood over here in Vegas. We need a Hollywood over in North Dakota. I don't know.
Yeah.
Canada. Somewhere.
I guess it comes right down to strength and numbers. So there's got to be a collective, a bunch of us that have to want it so badly that, you know, there would be no choice but to get it done.
Yes.
So
I think
we
people
can't.
are attempting to, you know, to build their little versions of Hollywood in these smaller communities. I mean, Tyler Perry gives a lot of props to Tim Reed. Because Tim Reed, and for those who do not know, Tyler Perry is not the first person to own a production studio. No. It's Tim Reed. But what he wanted to do was, he said he was kind of just tired of LA and the Hollywood hustle, so he wanted to open his production studio in Virginia. And I guess they saw some success for the amount of time that they were open, but they did sell their studio about 3 years ago. And but when I think about what's happening, especially post-COVID, with the film industry now, and I'm seeing it in these little, like, you know, just film and production groups that I'm in, people are, you know, trying to build up their own community. I mean, not only do you see it in Atlanta, you do see it in Canada, specifically Vancouver. Hollywood is number one. When it comes to quote unquote Hollywood's number one, Bollywood's number two, and number three is now Nollywood in Nigeria.
Right.
And I've been seeing a whole bunch of very interesting content coming out of Nigeria and South Africa that's on Netflix.
Right.
And I don't know. I like the direction that it is going.
Yeah, so it's like we just need more. I think once we get more of ourselves out there and more of our content kind of streaming into the system, you know, I think we might see more of Hollywood changing and Hollywood shifting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we can't really depend on Hollywood to start making these changes. I mean, even though they are doing it now, gradually.
Yeah.
You know, so like, you know, so I give a lot of props to all of my friends who are like movie makers, and have been like putting these things together and like trying to get their own things out there. Some have way more abstract ideas than others. Some stick to a niche, which I guess works for them.
Yeah.
Even though it's like a copy of a previous one. But then again, at the same time, everything is essentially borrowed from something else and hopefully improved on in the future. So,
and even though, and ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there, you know, you're watching this and you happen to want to be a filmmaker, I know that you want to do your own films. You want to make your own mark. But let's try to see if we can work some kind of humility and be able to work with others so that way we can get this collective, that we can get this thing going on. Get behind somebody. Let there be a leader. So that we, because I know everybody wants to do things. Everybody's like over here and over there, over here and over there. And I've seen it happen so many times where people get together and they have all these great ideas and everything. Then all of a sudden somebody gets disgruntled and they just want to run off and do their own thing. And then that big project that could have really done well if everybody would have just stuck with it, it falls apart because now all of a sudden like, oh, I could do my own film. I could do my own film. Have some humility to be able to like, okay, I have an idea. I know I want to work on it, but I want to see if I can get with some people. So that way we can build this thing. And then once it's built, then I could start working on this.
Exactly.
So so let's learn to work together. That's the reason why, and I'm going to say it, I put a bug in Kendrick's ear. Yes, I did. Because I think he's going to be a fantastic filmmaker. I feel it in my freaking bones. And I have friends and family and everything like Harold, why don't you make your own film? Why don't you no, I will. But there needs to be a group of people. I want to work with a group of people so we can build this Black Hollywood, as it were, and be able to, like, undergird each other and get out of this crabs in a barrel mentality, because we need to work together to build something. I'll get mine eventually, but let me help somebody. Let's everybody help each other.
Yep.
There it is. Oh, one other thing. If I could just travel back for just a moment. As we were coming up when we were kids, right? The heroes that we saw, let's just face it, they were all white, okay? Batman, Superman, and everything. We picked up comics, and we did see some. My first exposure to a black superhero was Falcon. I think it was either my mother or my uncle bought me a Falcon, the Mego action figures from back in the day. I had a Mego Falcon action figure, and literally was my favorite action figure next to my Shazam action figure. Right, so there wasn't really a whole lot of us, not a lot. They were coming. They were in the comics. Some of them were a little. Let's just say there were black superheroes from a white person's point of view, because they wrote them. So we dealt with that. All right. Now, as we start to go more on into the future, there was still more white superheroes than black. So now we're in this day. We're seeing Commissioner Gordon being race swapped. We're seeing a lot of characters being race swapped. Heimdall, a whole bunch of being race, and people are complaining about it. Listen, these heroes have been with us for a long time, and it was mostly white. For people to be, I would guess, included, some things, I guess, had to be changed because life is not all white. Do you understand what I'm saying? So you changed a few characters to fit today. You know what? I think Lawrence Fishburne was. I mean, if you didn't tell me that Perry White, okay, no pun intended. If you didn't tell me, if I never knew that Perry White was a white character from the Superman comics, I wouldn't know the difference, because Lawrence Fishburne did such a good idea, and I was convinced that he was Perry White, because he just played that role. So what I'm trying to say is like, all the race swapping, for as long as everything fits the narrative and it's not shoved in your face, people have to understand, if we want the Marvel universe to to grow. We grew up with Marvel comics and everything. They were mostly Caucasian. That changing a few characters into different into other races other than white, I just don't think is a bad thing, as long as it's done correctly.
Yeah.
Because life is not white.
Well, you can't tell me that you don't enjoy Nick Fury.
Oh yeah, exactly. I love Nick Fury. Oh God, because I wasn't even into Nick Fury before. I mean, I knew exactly. I knew right. of his existence. I knew that he had who he was and his existence and everything. And I even think I played Marvel Alliance when it was out for Xbox 360, and Nick Fury was very white in that show in that game, right? But ever since they changed Nick Fury, because I didn't care about Nick Fury, honestly, until Samuel Jackson played him. Because of course, they changed him in the comics to make him look like Samuel L. Jackson, almost as like a nudge, like saying, hey, if you guys are going to do an Avengers film, Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson, and it worked. And it helped, and a lot of in the visual of young people. That's why Black Panther is so important. The visual of young people to be able to look at this superhero who is a king, a scientist, a martial artist, a leader, a hero. Black Panther is so important. Life is not all white. So if things change, I think it's all for the better. But now, we need to see some original black characters, or go into that big Marvel library of black characters and work on them. Because if it worked for Blade, who was basically a C-list character, and they brought him to A-list,
Yeah.
did so well. If they could take a C-list character like Blade and bring him all the way up here, there's so many black characters in Marvel that are waiting to be put up on the silver screen. I shudder to wonder, could they make a Blue Marvel movie, or are people scared of that?
I want a Blue Marvel movie so bad it's not even funny.
You know?
Real quick, just to go back in the chat. Daryl
No, I
said that
don't. Oh, no, go ahead.
Daryl said the first black superheroes he saw were Storm and Bishop from X-Men the animated series. And Smoke and Mirror asked the question, do you think the race swap of character is kind of lazy? It is if you're just doing it just to do it.
That I agree with.
But technically, when you think about Iris West, Nick Fury, James Gordon, they are swapped just to be swapped, in all honesty.
Now,
and you know what? And the thing is that sometimes it legitimately just works. So let's just be completely honest with ourselves in that particular sense. Race swapping, just for race swapping, for the sake of race swapping, is legitimately sometimes coming down to, you know what I said. That character showed up for this. I had an idea who I wanted. That person showed up and changed my whole aspect of what I wanted to see for this character.
Right.
Now let's bring.
I'm sorry. I wanted to go. There's a show called Hollywood on Netflix. And that's if you ever take a look at it, that kind of is what happened. And that kind of is what I'm referencing when I go in. I didn't mean to cut you off with that, but I just wanted to run through this quickly. The same thing happens. The character itself is the character that I forget the girl's name is, but she's a black woman. She's trying to excel in this place where she's basically playing mammy all the time, because that's exactly what black people were playing at the time.
It was the 40s.
Yes, it was the 40s. And she got an opportunity to play a character who is white, who jumped from the Hollywood sign.
Yeah. The main plot of Hollywood was these are actual people that existed, but their stories are that kind of true, kind of fiction.
Yeah.
It's embellished. Their storylines were embellished.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the thing is that, again, you're looking at a character who she had to show that she was better than all the rest of the characters to get that role. And the fact, the fact that she was that good, but the fact that she even embodied that character and what it was. But they had a vision for that character, and it wasn't her at all.
I think on Saved by the Bell, Lisa Turtle was supposed to be white.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they loved Lark Voorhees.
Yes.
Now, there's instances where, the showrunners have a vision for who this character is supposed to be, but then somebody comes in and they just show they're like, okay, we're going to go in this direction. Now, to answer Smoke and Mirror's question, like I said before, it's only lazy if they're just doing it for the sake of just doing it. Yeah. Like let's look at Nick Fury, for example. Again, just like Harold, I didn't give two craps about Nick Fury. Right. And it's not because he was white, it's because I just didn't care. Like, now, for those of you who don't know, the Ultimate Universe from Marvel, they're the ones that race swapped Nick Fury. And they literally said that they modeled him after Samuel L. Jackson. Mm-hmm. The comic book writers actually said that. So the Ultimate series wasn't like super, super popular, but the fact that they went out of their way to mention that this Nick Fury is modeled after Samuel L. Jackson, that was just them putting all the pieces of the puzzle in the right place. So when the Marvel Cinematic Universe became a thing and they casted Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury, it just worked because they already laid the groundwork. Now, someone like Iris West has always been white in the comic books, and she still is. Her race hasn't changed in the comic books yet. For the sake of TV, and considering that basically the CW Arrowverse is like its own separate universe, it works. Because let's be real, we all love Joe West. Joe West is like the official father of the CW. He's everybody's daddy. Yeah. Okay.
And they said the reason why they changed his name to Joe, because they said it is kind of unrealistic for a black man to be named Ira. Not saying that it would be impossible.
Right.
Right.
But it's not likely.
And like hell, even in the comic books, there is a black Wally West.
Mm-hmm.
So the way they wrote the show, it just kind of went in. That puzzle piece ran to the right place because in the comic books, Wally West is Iris's nephew. In the show, she's her brother. He's her brother. So it just kind of fits. So like, if you're just doing it for the sake of doing it.
And then I told you with Hawkman, they shouldn't have made Hawkman a black man with the name they gave him.
Yeah, Prince Khufu, like, really, there's a tall white boy out there with the name Khufu. I don't know.
He might be from South Africa. You know.
Exactly. I don't know. Maybe that's the thing. I don't know. But I'm just saying.
Again, it's probably not likely.
Let's take a look at a couple of, like, we mentioned Commissioner Gordon. Again, in my mind, Commissioner Gordon is still a mustachioed white guy. That's just what we're used to. But I'm very interested to see what I'm forgetting his daggone name, who's going to be playing him now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, by the way,
in the Batman, like, I'm interested to see that because again, that's an Elseworld story though. That is an Elseworld story, so that's how that looks. The Penguin is tall in the movie. Penguin ain't tall. What are you gonna do with that? We got Zoe Kravitz playing Catwoman. The only other black Catwoman we had was Halle Berry, and we don't like to talk about that.
Eartha Kitt,
yeah.
Eartha Kitt was that's just fantastic. Okay. So all the 60s Catwomans were great. So let's just be real here. But
there's also a different body type that we look for too when they dress those Catwomen.
But if we look at someone like, again, Michael Clark Duncan as the Kingpin for the Daredevil movie, didn't really mean much, honestly. He kind of portrayed the way the Kingpin was in the comic books. He's a big hulking dude with like extra strength who can like toss people around, and he's a ruthless crime boss. Now, it wasn't until Vincent D'Onofrio came in and showed us what a live action Kingpin was supposed to be like. But for what it was, Michael Clark Duncan did a pretty decent job.
The actor that's playing James Gordon in the upcoming Matt Reeves' The Batman is actually Jeffrey Wright.
Right.
Yeah.
Who was a great actor.
Fantastic actor.
So like at certain points, there has to be some type of representation to try to get people to see your movie. Like, I love Candace Patton as Iris. And she got a lot of freaking hate. She probably still does. Even to this day.
But because Grant Gustin be going off all the time on his Instagram.
But I think most people can definitely say that they love Candace Patton as Iris West. They do. I'm trying to think of other characters that got race swapped within movies and TV shows.
Tilda Swinton.
Tilda Swinton, she played the Ancient One. Okay, yes, the Ancient One is an old Asian guy. Okay, we get it. But for narrative's sake, it just kind of worked.
Right.
I didn't mind her, but that's because I didn't really care enough about the original comics.
That too.
Yeah. I like Doctor Strange the movie. I don't really care about Doctor Strange the comic.
Like, if I'm not mistaken, I don't even think Mordo is black in the comic books, if I'm not mistaken.
Was Doctor Strange actually Asian?
No. Doctor Strange is a white guy. A whole white dude.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
It's just the way he's drawn. That's probably what confuses people.
But, so that's what I was like. I was so saying, because I thought that was the biggest thing, is that, because he was drawn kind of Asian-like.
Now there are some. It
was about Tilda Swinton.
Okay.
So no, there are some race swaps that don't really make a difference. Like Deadshot, that works either way. You can be a white Deadshot or a black Deadshot. It doesn't really matter.
Starfire was a big one too. People. Now
Starfire,
it was a mess though. That was the biggest thing.
Yeah. The way they had her character portrayed was just ridiculous. Like, I don't mind Anna Diop being Starfire, but if you're gonna make her look like Starfire, make her look like Starfire. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
don't like downplay it. Like, she's Starfire. Make her have all the Starfire powers. Like, give it to her. You know. Again, that's another one that kind of doesn't really matter what the race is. Like, what matters is the effects with that. That's what matters with that character.
Well, I
Mhm.
gave the whole synopsis of what would have needed to be done from a costuming and makeup standpoint to make her look good,
Right.
and Hollywood was just lazy with that.
I mean, and there's a couple of characters. Like, the one thing I do like is when the character, you cannot tell the race. And I don't know why I enjoy that so much, because when you see a character, you can't tell the race, and they just put a character in there, and it doesn't matter what race they are.
Yeah.
Like who?
Like Zoe Saldana, for instance. Like, basically, you're looking at her character in Guardians.
But
her and the sister. I can't think of the woman who played the sisters.
Karen Gilliam.
Yes, the two of them.
But that's what it ultimately comes down to. Again, like, those are characters where, like, the race doesn't really matter.
The race does not matter, and I think.
Interesting though, because I mean, with Nebula and
see, we're doing the same exact thing right now.
Gamora.
Gamora.
Yeah, there. Nebula and Gamora. It's like, you don't really talk. I don't really think they talk too much about, like, their history or culture, except for their relationship to Thanos. But think about Martian Manhunter and the white and green Martians.
Right.
When they're in their human form, they choose to take the form of African Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And in Supergirl, he actually addressed that. It's like I forgot what he said, but he said for some reason they all choose to take an African American's form.
But that's an example of it being written into the narrative to make sense. Because in the comic books, oftentimes Martian Manhunter is white.
Yeah.
He poses as a white guy. Even in Justice League, he poses as a white guy.
Yeah.
So.
But here's the best part about that. Can you see anybody else playing those roles?
Now, I mean, we've only gotten one live action iteration. Well, no. I mean, take that back. We've gotten two live action iterations of Martian Manhunter.
Mm-hmm.
Smallville and Supergirl. Mm-hmm. Both of them portrayed by black guys. What's his name? Daggone it. Who played... I'm forgetting his daggone. He played John Jones in Smallville.
So,
what is his daggone name?
If this doesn't show off all of our ages right now, I don't know what does.
I know, right?
I didn't watch Smallville, so.
Phil Morris. It was Phil Morris who played on Martian Manhunter in Smallville. And you know what the crazy part is? He never turned into Martian form on the show. He just said, like, I don't know what kind of budget Smallville was working with, but I mean, at least Supergirl has him show up in Martian form here and there, and all this. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm glad they changed up his costume for, like, the crossover from Crisis, so now he can have, like, his normal face on in his suit. I'm glad about that. But I mean, look at Brainiac 5 for that matter. Mm-hmm. Brainiac is a green alien. The actor who plays Brainiac, what is he, Hispanic, or Asian?
I'm about to look at it right now. I'm going to look at it right now because.
Oh my God! Seriously.
Because his sister played like the female version of him on the show. And I remember her. She was in Being Human.
Jesse Rath.
Yeah, so I'm looking at him right now. I'm looking at his history. I think it's Canadian.
Yeah, but I'm trying to find his ethnicity. English and Austrian. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but his mother is Indian.
There we go.
Indian and white, pretty much.
So, there's like certain characters, it doesn't matter. I mean, especially if you're like a different colored alien like Starfire or Martian Manhunter or Brainiac or something like that. Again, like I said, Deadshot, he works either way, white or black. It doesn't really matter. Um, it's just one of those things. Like it's only lazy if it doesn't fit the narrative in some form or fashion. That's just the way I see it. Right, let's see. I'm about to look up a list of race swapped characters.
Well, while you look at that, I'm actually going to leave you guys because I am getting very drowsy.
Okay.
You got with us for an hour and a half, so that's it.
Yeah, you were a trooper. You were a trooper for as long as you stayed on, and you banged out some banging points. So I gotta. You did well.
All right, but
Rest.
All right, see you guys.
All right.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Jesse Raph's sister actually looks more South Asian than he does.
Mm-hmm.
So I said that he and his sister, because his sister is also an actress.
Yeah.
So they are Indian, South Asian, and white.
There we go.
So, but she definitely looks more Indian.
Mm-hmm. Like just going down the list, like the fact that Jason Momoa played Aquaman in the movie.
Yeah.
He's like he's Polynesian, but Aquaman was always a white guy in the comic books.
Right. But he pulled it off.
But he pulled it off. And it fit the narrative very well too, which was crazy.
Yeah. I honestly, I wouldn't really want nobody else playing Aquaman now. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Mommy.
I mean, Eve Moneypenny from the James Bond franchise. In the original franchise, well, in the previous movies, she was white. In the new iterations with Daniel Craig, she's black.
Yeah.
But it kind of works. Yeah. Let's see, going on again. We talked about Kingpin from the Daredevil movie. Like hell, I didn't even know the character of Fox from Wanted was originally created with Halle Berry as the inspiration. The character the character Angelina Jolie played, Fox.
Yeah.
I think they had Halle Berry in mind. Nick Fury, we just talked about him. Harvey Dent from the first Batman movie to Batman Forever. Heimdall.
Yeah.
That worked.
I thought it was interesting. I watch reruns of the hell. It's funny. Kim was just talking about us showing our age. And I watched the reruns of Sex and the City because when Sex and the City first started, I was too young to watch it. By the time it ended, I could have been old enough, but then why would I watch it in the middle?
Right.
But so just reading, when I watch shows and I get invested in certain TV shows and actors within those shows, I tend to look them up and research them a bit. So I remember seeing and reading that Sarah Jessica Parker did try to push for more diversity on the show because she's like, we live in New York City, and like you're trying to tell me there's no Black and Hispanics and Asians.
Yeah.
And I think she even wanted it as part of either someone of color as one of their core group of friends.
Right.
But unfortunately that didn't happen. But they said the reason why Blair Underwood got on the show to play a love interest of one of the girls is because that had to be pushed for.
Right.
And yeah, I think one of them had dated a Black guy before, but it was literally like a date or two.
Right.
Blair Underwood was the first person that someone was actually in a semi long-term relationship with. And he was like a core character on the show for a little while.
Right.
Yeah.
And and then the same thing happened with Friends. And again, nope. Yeah. I said, so y'all don't have any Black friends in New York City, huh?
Like now, don't get us wrong. We're talking about the examples where it makes sense, but there's a lot of times where it doesn't make sense. And you've heard people talk about The Last Airbender a lot. A character with very East Asian influences in a very manga style type of animation.
Mm-hmm.
The movie, Aang is played by a white kid.
The moment I saw those blue contact lenses, I knew there was going to be a problem.
All three mains were played by white people.
Yeah.
And what about I mean, I don't watch this, but we saw the pitch meeting for Dragon Ball Z, and I'm like, did that
Dragon Ball Evolution was the worst of the worst. Now, and people's argument is like, well, Goku can't be Asian, he's an alien. I'm like, listen, it came from Asia, okay?
Mm-hmm.
It came from Japan. So as far as we know, Goku at least is Japanese looking or Japanese adjacent, okay?
Right.
Like let's be real. Like,
yep.
You can create a little bit more diversity in a live action movie. Certain characters can be changed, but as far as Goku is concerned, no. Goku's not a white boy. I don't know where you got it from. In fact, one of the biggest two examples, actually there's a lot of examples up here, but one of the biggest examples you can think of is Exodus: Gods and Kings. That's like a retelling of the Prince of Egypt. Yeah. And nothing against Christian Bale or Joel Edgerton, but we're talking about Egypt. Really? Come on. Same thing goes with that horrible piece of crap movie, Gods of Egypt. All the gods were white.
Because there's people like to argue that a lot of Egyptians now are not necessarily darker skinned. I'm like, yeah, now, because there's a lot of Arabic and Middle Eastern influences in Northern Africa. So yes, they aren't as dark skinned as they once were. But in ancient Egypt, yes, they were.
Yes. I don't know. It's just interesting. I'm even going back to that version of Cinderella that aired on ABC years ago that had Brandy as Cinderella. Like all the races in that movie were switched.
I don't remember it being a big deal, but I do remember. All right. This is 12-year-old me. When did that movie come out?
That came out in 97.
Okay, 97. So we're talking about 13-year-old me. Okay. All right. So 13-year-old me was trying to figure out how Victor Garber and Whoopi Goldberg had an Asian child. But that was the extent of it. Like, I didn't, like, I don't know, maybe they were adopted. That's why I was
I mean, they were all over the place with that movie.
Right.
And they never addressed it. They were just characters.
No, they did not.
Nope.
Actually, a lot of things, maybe because social media didn't exist,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe people did talk about this stuff inside their homes and you never knew about it. But I remember a lot of things not really being addressed growing up.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I tell Kendrick all the time, I feel like I saw more diversity in children's shows when I was a kid than now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, we had fairy tales for every child and Little Bill and Little Island and Cousin Skeeter and all Nickelodeon and HBO and Disney Channel for a time being was on it.
Yes.
With diversity.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I don't feel, maybe because I don't notice it because I don't have children and I'm not watching these shows anymore, but I don't feel like I see it as much.
No.
Yeah.
A lot of those things like disappeared as that generation just grew up for some reason.
Right.
And they got involved.
We're in our 30s.
I'm talking about the people younger than us. And they I mean, Daryl mentioned the fact that Gal Gadot is getting a lot of heat for, you know, being casted as Cleopatra. And I've seen a lot of people.
I'm done with the Cleopatra thing. It's whatever.
I'm like, first of all, I never really cared about the story of Cleopatra, to be honest with you. I just don't. It doesn't really matter to me. I know a lot of people have been coming out saying that Cleopatra was originally Greek. She's of Greek descent. I'm like, if that's the case, then, you know, they're pretty much on point with.
I learned in school that Cleopatra was Greek.
Right. So,
that could be a lie. Who knows? But
it's like
I mean, there's a lot going on around that time.
Cleopatra wasn't black.
I mean, there's a lot going on around that time with Cleopatra and Mark Antony and all this other stuff. There's a lot happening. So
Yeah.
for them to say that Cleopatra was Greek, you know what? Could very well be right. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
You know, so all I know is that Gods of Egypt did a great disservice by casting a whole bunch of white people as Egyptian gods. That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That made no sense whatsoever. Okay.
Right.
Like, again, it just comes down to, as long as it makes sense narratively, and if the actor can do it. Because
Yes.
we often forget that sometimes things get switched because the actor brings a certain energy to the character.
True. Very true.
Like, I remember people mentioning wanting like Terry Crews or Ice Cube to play the new J. Jonah Jameson. I'm not saying they couldn't do a good job, but I'm just saying
Yeah.
J.K. Simmons.
I could see Terry Crews doing that.
Like, Terry Crews demanding pictures of Spider-Man would be hilarious.
Mm.
But J.K. Simmons to me is the perfect live-action iteration of J. Jonah Jameson.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
There's just certain characters that actors portray that you just can't. I mean, you will eventually have to move on from it because characters get recasted.
Right.
But like for instance, Patrick Stewart as Professor Xavier, that was just written in the stars. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That was written in the heavens. The gods declared that from the time Patrick Stewart was born that he's supposed to play Charles Xavier. I'm sorry. And nothing against James McAvoy.
I do like James McAvoy's interpretation though.
I like his too. But when the X-Men movie originally came out and we saw that Patrick Stewart was Professor Xavier, I'm like, well, they got that right.
Yeah.
I don't need to worry about anything else. They got that right. That's all that mattered. You know, or again, Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury. It just worked. J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson. Perfect. It was perfect. I mean,
and we can't forget Iron Man.
Yeah.
Like, who would have thought Robert Downey Jr. will make me care about Iron Man?
Yeah, I know, right?
5 foot nothing. Robert Downey Jr. to be Iron Man.
I ain't give a damn about Iron Man.
And you don't even blink an eye when he's standing next to 7 foot giant. Well, he's not that tall, but I'm just saying. Chris Evans is tall. Robert Downey Jr. is short as hell. If there's time together and they look awesome together.
If there's one franchise that nails down casting, it's the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm sorry, it is. They are the only franchise that I know of to date that nailed their casting down. Yeah. I didn't give a damn about Iron Man until Robert Downey Jr. I didn't really care for Captain America until Chris Evans. Like, a lot of these characters I didn't give a damn about. And I used to watch the Iron Man cartoon.
And Captain America is not, I mean, for the years that we've seen him in live action before Chris Evans, Captain America was not an easy character to nail down.
No.
You know,
like the people behind the scenes at the Marvel MCU are just they got it. They got it.
Yep.
I say with Fantastic Four, hey, Ian Grufford hasn't aged. He can still do it.
He's still my Mr. Fantastic. I don't care. I know y'all want I know you guys want your John Krasinski, but Ian Grufford is still my Mr. Fantastic. Change everybody else, but keep him.
Like I said, he hasn't aged.
Like, y'all don't understand, man. Like, I don't see nobody else as Mr. Fantastic except him. I don't see anybody else.
I also like Chris Evans as the Human Torch.
Like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's like casting and getting character portrayals. It can be very.
Could you imagine if they did some sort of multiverse thing and he did play both characters?
They would probably try that just to mess with people. I can see that happening. Like, whatever they're gonna do with Doctor Strange and whatever university he's gonna visit, I imagine
whatever the hell Scarlet Witch does.
Yeah.
To mess things up.
Character portrayals and casting. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you folks. It can be very tricky. It can be very tricky because the character is written one way, and then, you know, sometimes it just takes the right actor to bring that character forward. No matter what race that is. For all we know, we could have gotten
But I will say, under no circumstances should any Black Panther characters be changed to another race.
Like
Yeah.
now that's the flip side. The flip side is there are certain characters whose race plays a big factor into who they are that you can't change it.
Yes.
Black Panther is one of them.
He
Luke
is
Cage is one
inherent.
of them.
Yeah, they are inherently, foundationally, found. What is the word I'm looking for? It's created, and they were inherently created to
To
be
yeah,
Black
to
characters.
be a representation. Like
Exactly.
you can't change Blade into a white guy. You can't.
No, you can't.
See, and before people start to get on their high horse, you have to understand characters like Iron Man, Superman, Batman, you know, I mean, technically they can be anybody, but those characters were written the way they were. I
can't see
Hmm?
other ethnicity interpretations of those characters.
Like, and that's probably one of the only times you'll hear us say that, especially when it comes to comic book characters.
Right.
They've been written a certain way for all these decades that it will be hard to see them as a different ethnicity. I'm sorry.
Right.
Unless it was written somewhere, like again, you have your Val-Zod Supermans, you have your President Supermans,
Right.
you have your What If Batman Was a Black Guy written by Stan Lee. You have that. But as far as it stands, Bruce Wayne is a white guy, Superman is a white guy, Iron Man is a white guy, Captain America is a white guy. That's who those characters are.
Yeah.
Like it is what it is. Like you can't. There's just certain characters that race swapping wouldn't work for.
Yeah.
Right.
Even when talking about our fan film and people are coming to us, would you consider another race for such and such? I'm like, I'll consider a white passing Hispanic.
Like there were instances
which we now do have.
there were instances where the Young Justice fan film, we put out casting calls. For those of you who don't know, we are working on a fan film, all three of us, Young Justice Future Shock. It is a DC-based fan film. We put out casting calls for Superman, Superboy. Again, 2 white characters.
Right.
You know, people were trying to jump on us, talking about why does it have to be white? Because I'm like, Superman is white. That's why.
Exactly.
Like, if I had written like a Superman of a different ethnicity, then yeah, you might be in there. But no. And that's the other thing too. Fans can't ask for race swapping just for the sake of race swapping either. I mean, I can't tell you what to do.
You can.
I mean, you can do it, but is it going to fit your narrative?
Right.
That's the thing you have to consider. And that's always been my thing. Like, again, don't change the character's race just for the sake of changing it unless it has something to fit with the narrative. Unless it's a character where it doesn't matter. If it's a character where it doesn't matter whose race they are, then yeah, you can change it all you want. You know, it doesn't really make that big of it's not that big of a deal if you do that. But if you're talking about like these mains, like if you're talking about the Avengers, if you're talking about the Justice League, if you're talking about people like Blade or Wolverine or Deadpool or characters like this. I mean, seriously, do you want to see a black Wolverine? Personally, I don't.
Nah.
I honestly don't want to see that. I don't want to really see it.
I probably won't care either way, but
I mean, Wolverine to me is.
It really depends on the. I'll say it. It depends on the character for me.
Again, to me, Wolverine is that short, stocky Canadian badass who's white. I'm sorry. Deadpool is a snarky, wisecracking, fourth wall breaking white dude.
Yes.
You know, except for the fact that Hugh Jackman's like 6'3".
Well,
yeah.
You know.
Hopefully they'll get it.
They all can't be perfect. They all can't be perfect, but we spent 17 years with him as Wolverine and we loved it.
Yeah.
So again, that's one of those things where it just happened to work out. Yes, Wolverine is short, but Hugh Jackman did give us something to work with.
Yes.
For 17 years. So Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool.
With the Iron Man thing, you expect superheroes to be tall.
Right.
And Robert Downey Jr. is all 5'8".
You know, so like let's look at Henry Cavill as Superman. I love him as Superman, honestly. I
I
just,
think
I
he's a
just wish
great
they,
Superman.
I just really wish they wrote him better. That's all I think. That's all I want. I just
Yeah.
want them to write him better. That's it,
I
because
feel
he
like
can
a
do
lot of
it.
people like Henry Cavill as Superman. I think they just don't like the movie Superman. I think they just don't like the movie
I don't
Superman.
know.
I mean, for a lot of people, Christopher Reeve will always be their Superman, and rightfully so. He was the first one to really, really do Superman justice. There's no denying that. We can't take that away from Christopher Reeve.
Right.
Again,
That's right.
Superman, Man of Steel. Again, I enjoy Man of Steel. Are there
I
things
did too.
that could have been fixed? Of course.
I don't
Same-
understand people saying that. Let's see, like they say, Tyler Hoechlin is too short to be Superman. He's 6 feet tall, and he's not buff enough to play Superman. I'm like, did y'all say this about Dean Cain?
Well, that's the other thing. People are always going to have a problem with who gets casted, especially with the characters they really love. Think about it. People have something to say. People had something to say about Christopher Reeve when he got casted,
Yeah,
but they love him.
they did.
People have something to say about Dean Cain. Maybe not Tom Welling, because Tom Welling,
Right.
but definitely Tyler Hoechlin, Henry Cavill, even Brandon Routh. They have something to say about him.
I don't watch the Superman movies that much, so I was late to the party with even seeing Brandon Routh as Superman. But as soon as when I realized that he was in a Superman movie, and as soon as I found out that he was a Superman, I'm like, that is something I totally see.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, people had a problem with Michael Keaton as Batman. People had a problem with Val Kilmer. People had a problem with George Clooney. Rightfully so, with George Clooney. Look, I even had an issue with Christian Bale as Batman until I saw Batman Begins, and I was completely sold.
Yeah.
I mean, I had an issue with Ben Affleck.
I still have an issue with Ben Affleck.
I think I will say that I like his Batman better in Batman v Superman than I do in Justice League. But we had to wait for the Snyder Cut to see how they fix it.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
When Chris Evans got casted as Captain America, I was like, the Human Torch? Why are we doing this? You couldn't get somebody else? And then the MCU happened. And I was like, all right, I'm in there. Okay.
Boy,
this works.
They did a great job. I mean, dare I say it, Captain America, the First Avenger, had kind of had like almost like an Indiana Jones-ish kind of a feel to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Ryan Reynolds as Green Lantern, nah.
Yeah.
No. I saw what they were trying to do, but...
But the brilliant way that he handled it in Deadpool 2, that was crazy.
Like, at the end of the day, really, it comes down to how these characters are written.
Right.
And how they affect the demographic.
Right.
Because, like, again, I can agree with the whole gay characters being super flamboyant and lesbian characters being, like, super butch. I can understand that. That's not a real thing. It is, but not every gay or lesbian person in the planet is like that.
Right.
They're just regular ass people like me and you. Just living their lives, trying to pay their bills. It doesn't need to be like that in every single movie.
Right.
I mean, yes, certain stereotypes can be funny at times in certain instances, but not all the time.
Right.
We don't need it. We don't need that stuff all the daggone time. And again, it's all about how these characters are written, what kind of story you're trying to tell. People will invest in your story and your characters if they're written the right way. Again, I didn't give a damn about Iron Man until the MCU happened. And when he died at the end of Endgame, I choked up too. Okay? I choked up also. In fact, I choke up every time I see it because he didn't have to die. Thor really could have grabbed that. I'm sorry. I'm going off on a tangent here, but Thor or Captain Marvel really could have grabbed
Captain Marvel.
Scarlet Witch. I even think Scarlet Witch could have grabbed it. Like, I think Scarlet Witch could have grabbed the gauntlet. I think she would have survived.
Let's let the human do it.
But no, we're gonna let the guy in the iron suit do it. Okay, we get it. He's smart,
sad.
but he's human.
It was sad.
Like, come on, people. Like, let's not do this.
Thor said when Thor and Hulk were fighting over it, and he said that he should do it, but while they were talking, Iron Man just grabbed it. Later on. Later on.
We really should have let Thor do it. Like, he's an Asgardian. Like, come on now. How much damage would he have suffered? Really? Like,
right.
Huh? Really? Come on now. Like, And even if he did die, he could probably get brought back. I don't know, like something. I mean, some Asgardian magic or some mess. But
Robert Downey Jr., I guess maybe it was in his contract. I guess maybe he got tired of it, and
that was probably his out. That was probably his way out. I mean, it is what it is. These people can't play these characters forever as much as we want them to. They can't. So. And that's why I tell people these characters are going to get recasted later on down the line. You just got to be ready for it.
Exactly.
I know you aren't going to be ready to see somebody else play Iron Man, but it's going to happen.
It's going to happen, yeah.
It is. Just like somebody else is going to play Superman at some point. Somebody else is going to play Batman. Somebody else is going to play Daredevil at some point.
I think with Batman, people are used to,
Well, we've had like 100 Batman so far.
Every 2 to 3 movies, you kind of already expect that there's going to be a new Batman.
I mean, think about it. Michael Keaton, Val Kilmer, George Clooney, Christian Bale, Ben Affleck.
So I will say that about
Pattinson.
I will say about DC. DC, they don't get you attached to actors.
No, they don't. Although Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman is actually really, really decent.
Like, this is just for a season, y'all.
Yeah. So, I don't know. As far as like inclusion and diversity in film, Hollywood is going to continue to do what's in their best interest with these things. So, it's just going to be one of these. You either watch it or you don't. Really. It's what it comes out. You either watch it or you don't. It's at your own peril. Like, TV shows, I feel like TV shows do it a little bit better. I do feel like TV shows do a better job of inclusion than movies do, so. But if you are a filmmaker or a content creator of some sort, this is your chance to really put these demographics in the forefront, so it's really up to you. You can sit there and be mad all you want.
Yeah.
I mean, you can sit there and do that and just waste your time being angry. Or you can get up off your butt and try to make some moves.
I
don't really like that narrative, though.
What?
We expect people who are supposed to be experts in their field to do something and they're, and do a good job at it. I don't like the whole narrative of, like, if you think you should do better, you should do it. I expect a surgeon to do my surgery well. Doesn't mean I think and if they don't, I have a right to be mad at them. Don't tell me I should do it. Then if you think I should, if you think I could do it, you try doing surgery. I'm not a surgeon.
I mean, of course. I'm not
supposed to be good. I'm not supposed to be good at surgery, but you are. So it's the same thing with filmmaking. I'm not a filmmaker, so I'm not supposed to be good at filmmaker. I'm not supposed to be good at filmmaking. You're supposed to be good at filmmaking, though, so you should do something better.
I mean, it's within that context. Like, the people who are filmmakers should know that I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Like, whether you write, whether you film, whether you act, whatever. Like, if you're in the industry of some form or fashion, and you think you can do better, give it a shot. Seen plenty of fan films on YouTube that can argue against what we've been talking about today.
Right.
Yeah, because you know how I feel about Blade, I think is how Kim feels about Black Panther. I could never get into Blade because I just don't think those are good movies. But I saw a Blade fan film that I thought was phenomenal.
Like, look.
Like, the production quality alone was like so much better than Marvel's alleged bigger budget.
like Blade 1 definitely holds up to a degree. There's some things special effects wise that you kind of just gotta let go. You know, Blade 2 is phenomenal. Like all around, Blade 2 is just great.
Yeah.
Blade Trinity, that's where it fell apart. That's where Blade fell apart, and it wasn't even Wesley Snipes' fault. It was the writing. It was
6 degrees of Ryan Reynolds.
You know, so it's like the Amazing Spider-Man movies. You know, nothing against Andrew Garfield. It's just the way the story was written. Right. You know, I don't mind the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I don't. Do I go out of my way to watch them? Not necessarily. Maybe if it's the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but that's only to a small degree. The original trilogy, yeah. Especially if it's Spider-Man 2. Yeah, I'll sit and watch that. You know, it's I guess at the end it's all about really picking your battles. Right. You know, you can be upset about them race bending, you know, inclusion of LGBTQ characters, you know, the inclusion of people with disabilities and things like that. But at the end of the day, these people, especially inclusion of women, these people exist in real life, and they want to be represented, and they should be represented. It is what it is. Like, you know, again, I could probably write a pretty good treatment for a Book of Solara movie or a TV show. I mean, for you to think that it's about women empowerment, that kind of just shows your bias. I'm just out here trying to tell a good story. Now, if women empowerment becomes a part of that narrative, okay. But that's not the focus.
But we all know the world hates women. We knew that when Captain Marvel and Wonder Woman came out.
Yeah, but Wonder Woman did so much better than Captain Marvel.
It did.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, there were still people who couldn't stand Wonder Woman.
You know, so you can either get over your own biases, or
even Supergirl.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
You know, I for one enjoyed the Supergirl series, even though there are some things that they were kind of beating people over the head with. Yeah, I still enjoyed it. You know, it is what it is.
Right.
You know, so.
And we're sad it's ending.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So, I don't know. It's I'm all for more inclusion of everybody, really. Right. As long as the story is good. Just tell a good story.
Tell a good story.
Honestly. Yeah. Tell a good story that, you know, resonates with everybody. Right. That's all you really have to do. Just tell a good story that resonates with everybody. You know, like, do certain people need to be over the top? Unless it fits the narrative, then no. But if you can tell a good, solid story that we're going to enjoy at the end of it, all right then. It is what it is. But I think that's pretty much it. Unless you guys have any final thoughts.
Let's just enjoy the movies, guys. It's not that serious.
Look, I'm still gonna be watching Lovecraft Country.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna be watching Power Book 2 when it comes back. I'm gonna watch anything that has a good story. That's where I go. That's where my brain goes. My brain wants to, and my eyes want to watch a good story.
There it is.
So speaking of Power Book 2, you know, don't let your hate for Tariq, you know, stop you from actually seeing a good movie. Let me tell you something. I struggled through the first 2 seasons of Power. It was I kept going back and forth, like, why do people watch this? Like, why do people like this? Right. But I kept watching it, and then around season 3, it started getting good. Maybe because I'm already invested.
Yeah.
But I was instantly intrigued by the direction that Power Book 2 was going in. But, you know, y'all hate Tariq so much that y'all not even watching it.
Right.
But I'm just gonna go on a limb and say, check it out.
Yeah.
Catch up on the first 5 episodes before it comes back in December.
Right.
So, I don't know. All that being said, folks, we're gonna close out this show. I want to thank everyone who participated in the chat, everyone who watched. Thanks so much for your input. It is always welcome.
Yeah.
We'll be back next week. Again, we are always looking for suggestions on things to talk about. So if you have something you would like for us to talk about,
that's right.
Definitely send it to us and we'll consider it. I mean, we're going to have one more show before our Halloween watch party. I still got to try to rope in Matthew. I'm still trying to figure that out.
Oh my
goodness. I think we agreed on Creep Show, right?
Creep Show.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna do Creep Show, the movie, not the series, the movie.
The original one, the first
original Creep Show movie. So we're gonna do that.
Yeah.
So I think that
remember,
should be.
We do not do those live. You have to be invited.
That will be up
to our Zoom room.
Yeah. So if you would like to be invited to that, please let us know, and we will send you an invite just for that. Don't tell Matthew anything. Don't tell him nothing. Okay. But as far as it stands, again, whatever you would like for us to talk on our very next show, please send us your suggestions and we will look through them and pick one out. Again, you can find us all on our social media platforms. Shoot us how do you do whenever you want. Share this with all of your friends that might be interested in watching our show. Please, like, the viewership would really appreciate it if you could just send it out to people, share it with everybody, so people might check it out. Again, we're going to try to be more active on social media, so please, follow us, Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and all that stuff, so we can stay in contact. At some point, we're going to figure out the whole gaming thing. We're going to try to do some gaming videos at some point. I don't know, so we'll figure that out somehow. I mean, none of us seem to be getting the PS2. Or excuse me, I said PS2. None of us seem to be getting a PS5 anytime soon, so you're going to have to wait on that one. So
there's plenty of great games for PS4 if you want to watch us play. And,
right, so definitely, we're all working with a PS4, so we'll definitely figure that out. I'll try to work on creating some kind of Discord or something like that for us or something like that. I've got to work on it, but that's pretty much it. We will catch you guys next week for our next show. And as always, the council
has spoken.
Thank you guys for tuning in tonight, and we will catch you guys next week. We are out.
All right.
You were watching Council of the Blurs, a Geekcast. The council has spoken.